So what we're going to do is format field control borders. And we want to check these 4 boxes, and that's basically going to give us the outline for our field. Now once we've done that, we can go here and we can set the thickness of that border, the type of fill, or actually the type of border that will occur, you know, if it's got lines on it, if it's dotted and such. And then we can also set the color. If you try to do this before you go to Format Field Control Borders, you're going to get a warning. And well, maybe we'll set it to 1 point. That's a little easier to see. Let's go back to Browse Mode, and we have to create a new record. So we'll go to Records, New Record, and now we're going to play around with these different types of fields. So the first thing is, in a text field, we can enter text. Alright, let's take a look at a number field, and I'll show you what I meant earlier. If I type ASD 1.2, even though it will allow text to be entered in there, the only part of this string that will be accepted in calculations or things like that is 1.2. Likewise, if you entered 1 ASD 1.2, Filemaker will treat that number as 11.2. Alright? A date field, you can enter it, for example, in this format. If you put only 2 digits, Filemaker will automatically put the current millennium, I guess, and turn it into a 4-digit date. You can also, for example, do 7/23/09 or 5-12-09. Any of those are valid formats. Now let's look at the time field. If we enter this, Filemaker will actually interpret this as 13 minutes. So what you need to do is, if you meant 13 seconds, you are going to have to enter your data like that. Alright? And your timestamp field, this you can actually just control click and we can insert the current time. You can do the same with your date field. Just control click it, insert current date. And lastly, we have a container field. Now, to insert information, we just control click or right click, and we have all these different options of different kinds of files that we can insert. So just for quickness, let me take a screen grab. Basically just took a picture. If we take a look at this image, this is our image. We'll use that in our database. So let's right click this, and we're going to do insert picture. Choose our desktop. There's our image, and there you go. So now we've saved this image in the container field. Now, one thing that's very important is, if we do this one more time, you'll notice here at the bottom there's a checkbox which says store only a reference to the file. This is a very important thing that you have to think about. If you want the file to travel with this FileMaker database, you don't want to have this checked. In other words, if you copy this file onto a flash drive and give it to somebody else, the images will appear. What's the drawback? The file is going to get huge if you have hundreds or even thousands of pictures or other kinds of files in it. So if you want to optimize the size of your file and you're okay with having the images referenced, you can check this box and then add your image. And what that'll do basically is, if I were to take this image and delete it or move it, it would disappear from here. So we would have to reinsert it. Alright, well, those are the basic field types, and I hope you were able to learn something from this. Just one last thing I wanted to say is that you would use these different field types because it'll allow you to perform calculations and other kinds of logic activities without having to think about it yourself. For example, if you wanted to choose a date range, you could enter find mode. So we're going to go to view, find mode. And for example, I want to do a range from January 1st of 08 to, which is 3 dots, March the 1st of 08, and then hit enter. It would do a search for that date range, any record that has a date within that range. Obviously we don't have a record there. So that's one example of why you would want to use a date field as opposed to just entering that in a text field. You can do the same with a timestamp, a time, number, and text field. So let's go back to browse mode. For example, if you wanted to do a search for a record that has number field value greater than 5, you're going to enter view, find mode, and then we're going to use our greater than symbol and use the number 5 and just hit enter. And of course, since this is evaluated as 11.2, we have this record come up. Likewise, you could do a search for less than 6, and it did not find anything, which is because the field value was 11.2. Let's hit cancel. And a lot of people who are new to FileMaker ask, how do you search for nothing? In other words, an empty field. Well, there's a little trick to this, which is, let's enter find mode. If you want FileMaker to find an empty field, you use an equal sign. In other words, equals nothing field. So for example, if I were to delete this text, and now I perform a search, and I type enter, our equal sign, and then enter, there it goes. It finds our record. So to recap, we can use our less than, our greater than symbols, our equal sign,